Okay, Heinz is Tu B'Shvat. We'll talk a little bit about this. So give Tu B'Shvat. The basics is to start from the Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah Daf Beis. The Mishnah says, "Be'echad B'Shvat Rosh Hashanah Le'ilon Kiddivrei Beis Shammai." So there's two things to point out that it doesn't say in the Mishnah or in the Gemara Lashon of Rosh Hashanah Le'ilon Nois. It says it's Rosh Hashanah Le'ilon. We'll see why that makes a difference in a little bit. And what's Kiddivrei Beis Shammai? Like what Beis Shammai said. Why is it not what Beis Shammai said exactly? It's a famous horror that everyone talks about. Beis Hillel say B'chamisha Osabay. Beis Hillel say that the Rosh Hashanah Le'ilon is on the 15th. The Rashi says that the Le'inyan Meiser Shein Ma'asrin Peres Elon Shachantu Kedem Shvat Al Shachantu Lachar Shvat has to do with when you're Mechuyev Meiser. The halacha is that you can't separate Meiser from this year's Peres and last year's Peres. So what's considered this year? What's considered last year? So this year is any time that anything that was the Chanota was before Shvat or after Shvat, meaning whether you hold it's Tu B'Shvat or Rosh Chodesh. The Gemara Mefarish Ma'aseh on Shvat, the Gemara goes through what's Pshat on Shvat. There's a whole Gemara over there. Fine, but my focus is on a vort. Really, it's a vort from the Avnei Nezer, and the Chidusharim also used to talk about it. It seems that the Polish rabbis were very busy with this, but I want to focus on a couple of nekudas. The Erste Zach is the Chidusharim writes that Chodesh Shvat is, on Sukkot we daven for Geshem, right? So Geshem means the parnasa that we have for the whole year. Pesach is halatfua; it's all the food that we're going to have for the whole year, and these kinds of things. But there's a ruchnistic aspect of it as well. So when Chodesh Shvat, we get min hashamayim the chedushay Torah, the chedushay Torah that a person will be mechadush throughout the entire year, is a person is zeichet to in the month of Shvat. And Beis Shammai say that at Be'echad B'Shvat is Rosh Hashanah Le'ilon, because a person is referred to as a Elon, Ki Odom Eitz Hasada. And it's before the Gemara that Beis Shammai were sharper than Beis Hillel. Because of that, they have Rosh Hashanah on on an earlier date than when Beis Hillel have it. They have it on Rosh Chodesh as opposed to when Beis Hillel have it on Tu B'Shvat. Now, just to put things in perspective a little bit, whenever we have Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, so Beis Shammai is always a little bit like a higher madrega of more in the Olam HaMachshava, and Beis Hillel is much more in the Olam HaMaisa. Rosh Chodesh, you don't see the moon Bechlal, and Tes Vav Chodesh, that's when you see the moon B'Miluai, right? So Beis Shammai is like there's the moon even when you don't see the moon, right? It's almost like it's a muna as opposed to seeing it in real life, which is a higher madrega in a sense. But Beis Hillel, it's bepoil mamish what you have in front of you. So that's also why it could be Kiddivrei Beis Shammai, because it's not mamish. It's not mamish anything here. It's like the hope that it should be here, as I state. But I'll go upon him. That's Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. And the Eretz Tzvi, who's the Talmud Avnei Nezer, he writes that every year the Avnei Nezer would say that after Tu B'Shvat he feels that his Torah, he's margish a shinoi in his chedushay Torah. It's interessant. What does chedushay Torah got to do anything over here, right? The pashtus of this Mishnah, the pashtus of what Tu B'Shvat's really all about, is just a halacha l'gabe maisvus basar chanota. That you can't take off Paris from this year and Paris from last year. Really, it's what does it got to do with Paris? This whole situation that we do, what does it got to do with, and what does it got to do with Chidushay Torah? So really, there's a vort like this. There's a vort that from the Kedushas Levi. The Kedushas Levi says that Tu B'Shvat is a hachana for Pesach, and Pesach is a hachana for Matan Torah. And what does this mean? So it's very interesting. It's very much interesting, Nikuda. This is what he says. So Kumtais the Tu B'Shvat is a hachana for Matan Torah. And we see that the Torah was given in Sivan 50 days after they left Mitzrayim. And Moshe Rabbeinu said Mishnah Torah, here's really the Nikuda where everything lies in. This is really the answer to all the questions. Moshe Rabbeinu said Mishnah Torah in Shvat, like the pasuk says, "Ba'ashtei asar chodesh hoil Moshe be'eres haTorah hazos." The 11th month, that's when right? Because Adar is the last month if we start counting from Nisan. So the 11th month would be Shvat. So Moshe Rabbeinu started Mishnah Torah, started Sefer Dvorim, Rosh Chodesh Shvat. It says, Pasuk steht, Ba'ashte Asar Chodesh Hoil Moshe Be'eres HaTorah Hazos. So Chodesh Shvat is Shaykh to Matan Torah. There's a couple of things, I don't know if it's going to be in a specific order or not, but I'll go upon him like this. What does he say? What's the Lashon HaPasuk? Hoil Moshe Be'er as HaTorah Hazos. Moshe will explain the Torah. Right? Sefer Dvarim we know is Mishnah Torah. It's different than the other 4 Chumashim. Because this was Moshe Rabbeinu's Chazara, so to speak, of the Torah. And there are many nafkaminas to halacha that the Gemara brings in a lot of places that, there aren't any new mitzvahs that are in Sefer Dvarim. It's all repetitions of previous mitzvahs, and the Gemara's other nafkaminas about if you darish smuchim, even if you darish on smuchim we call it terakula, meaning if you darish on 2 parashas that are next to each other, maybe when it comes to Mishnah Torah you don't darish them because it's different, just has a different mitzias. So what's interesting is that there's a chassidus sefer called Imrei Noyam, the Jikaver. And it's an unbelievable sefer full of gematrias. It's a very deep sefer. It's very hard to understand because there's a lot of gematrias. It's very terse. It's very short. Doesn't really explain much. But he says like this. He says fascinating thing. He says that Tu B'Shvat is a hisayrus on Brias HaOlam, because Brias HaOlam was in Nisan. And we know that 40 days, Kaidem Yitziras Havlad, right? The Gemara at the beginning of Sait, and Daf Beis says that 40 days before the creation of Havlad, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's machers, Bas Pleni Lepleni, Sadas U Lepleni, right? So it's 40 days before Pesach. Yeah. The Moshe Rabbeinu said Mishnah Torah and Shvat, right? I'm sorry. So he says the remez over here. The Chodesh Nisan of the Torah is called Aviv. Aviv is Rosh Teves B'terem Etzarcha B'beten Yidaticha, which is a pasuk in Yirmiyah that means that before I created you in the beten, in the womb, I knew you. So that's the Rosh Teves of Aviv. Aleph Beis Yud Beis is B'terem Etzarcha B'beten Yidaticha, and Aviv is Gematria 15. So that's the Gematria of Chamisha Asar, before the Yitziras HaOlam of Pesach, of Nisan, and Etzarcha is the same Gematria as Shvat. Now, I want to take it a step weiter. I want to say like this. Every month has a mazel in Shemayim. Now, is it exactly with the stars, the way the formation of the stars, if we would look at it now, if that's exactly what it would be? I don't know. It's more of a ruchinistic thing, I would imagine. But Al Kapanim, the mazel for Chodesh Shvat is a dli. A dli is a bucket. What do you do with a bucket? So we already mentioned once from the Imrei Emes, quoting from the Sfas Emes, about Yosef HaTzadik, that there's a pasuk, the Mayim Amukim Eitza B'Lev Ish Tvunas Yidleno, that sometimes a person has a very good idea, just you have to go all the way down to dig it out, to bring out the koyach, or to bring out the nakuda, to bring out that specific part. And the chodesh of Shvat is the chodesh of Dli, and that's why it's Hoil Moshe Be'eres HaTorah Hazos. Be'er is a lashon of like a well. And what do you do with the well? You stick the bucket into the well to draw up water. Now it's interesting. If you ask me what's pshat in this Kedushas Levi, it sounds very strange. Oh, because Tu B'Shvat comes before Pesach. Pesach comes before Shavuos. Yeah, so Tu B'Shvat's Achanul Matan Torah. Right, so like Rosh Hashanah is also Achanul Matan Torah. Why dafka Tu B'Shvat? L'cher is a Matan Zach. Right? It reminds me of like the Gemara Menachos. The Gemara says that Tchelis is daimel yam. Yam is daimel to this, and it's daimel to that. It's daimel to the other thing, and it's daimel to the same color as the kisei hakavod. So that's how a person wears Tchelis Shavir Shemaim. It's like, what does that guy do to anything? But I think there's an oimik over here, and oimik, I mean it literally and figuratively at the same time, because the oimik. What was this vart that we said from the Sfas Emes? The Medrash says that you have a be'er, you have a well that's very, very deep. And how do you get to it? You can't go down there, it's too deep, right? So you have to tie a rope. So you try with the rope, it doesn't always reach. You have to add more strings. You add more string. Even that doesn't reach. And you have to put on hooks, and you have to put on zachin. You connect all the pieces together, then you can lower the bucket all the way down. Then maybe you'll get some water all the way at the bottom, and you'll pull it up, and then you'll have the water. So Sasem says a fascinating thing. And so before the Sasem, just want to explain with the words of the Kedushas Levi. So the pshat is that Hagam, it's not it's not easy to connect right now. That in the winter months, to connect to the Geula of Pesach, and to connect to the Etzem of Yetzias Mitzrayim, right? But we have to be doyle la'amukim. We have to go deep down within ourselves. We have to be, go all the way down to find, to recognize, to see what's down there, to be able to bring out the connection, to be able to see what shaykhs do I have to Torah, what shaykhs do I have to things. Everyone is shaykh. Everyone has some kind of, deep down somewhere, has some kind of shaykhs to Yiddishkeit. And it goes like this. The Sasema says Azay. Sasema says that there's an akuda that's hidden in every single yid, that's very deep down, that sometimes it takes a lot of work to be able to pull it up, right? And what's the lashon that means? Also, Ma'ira and lashon marriage. That what's the pshat? That you need this rope and you need that rope. I don't know. You take a string, you lower the bucket down, you pull it up. But he says putting together all the different ropes that the marriage is talking about is a remez that when we're digging deep down within ourselves, we're going to bring up. It's what we have to be able to be misakin, the Ramach Evarim and the Shasak Gidim, connected all the Targum mitzvahs from all the Evarim of a person that he has, and as we explained a few times from the Chafetz Chaim Shmos Loshen brings from Reb Chaim Vital, that every chelik of a mensch, every part of a person, every aver of a person, inside the Ramach, inside the Shasa, has a ruchnistic aspect to it as a chelik of his neshama, and every time he does a mitzvah, so it adds a certain adds a certain kedusha to that chelik, that aver, that part of the neshama. So when a person ties together all these ropes and all these threads and all these strings until he's able to bring out his pnimius, that's a pshat in ish tvunis yidleno. That's a pshat that a person who's a maven, a person who understands, is able to bring it out from the oimek. And really, this is the job of a rebbe, because the word dli, which is a bucket, the same isis as yeled. And it's a very interesting thing. Yeled is over here is referring to Yosef HaTzadik because he was the 11th child of Yaakov Avinu, the 11th of the Shvatim, Yemen being the 12th. So if you're counting Ruvain being Nisan, then Kumtais, that Yosef ends up being with Shvat. And there is a lot of Torah on this, and I could get into it, but I'll go upon him that's a pshat in a Yeled, but a little bit more than that, because in Elam, Ayin Lamed Mem is a lashon of Helam, is a lashon of hidden. Olam is a lashon of hidden. And what's the pshat in that? And a nar is a lashon of Hisayrus, of Neor, to wake up, right? Because it takes a good rebbe. It takes a good rebbe to be able to awaken within the child that pnimius. And a child doesn't necessarily mean young in age, but it could mean a person who's young at heart, or a person who's not developed yet in Torah and Yerushalayim, and he needs a rebbe to be able to schlep him out from these be'eres amukim, and especially this time of year, it's the winter, and people are down, and it's not kashmak, but I'll go upon him. A rebbe has to go down to a rebbe has to lower down that bucket for the child, whoever that child might be, for that Talmud to raise him up. And I thought it very interesting, Tzushdel, because Be'etzem, the Gemara says that that a person should only go learn Torah by a Rebbe who's like a Malach Hashem Tzvakas. What's this Malach Hashem Tzvakas? So we know the Medrash says that every Esav, Chol Esav has a Malach that's Oimed Alav. Every blade of grass, every leaf of a tree has a malach that stands over him, umakel boy, and hits him, gadel, and tells him to grow. Right? That's the job of a rebbe. The point is that the rebbe will bring you out from the Tehom, will bring you out from the Oimek and raise you up. That was Moshe Rabbeinu's tafkid for Klal Yisrael, and that's the pshat in Moshe Rabbeinu taking care of Klal Yisrael all these years in the Midbar. And the pshat is because he's the Spitz Rebbe. So that's why it's the Hoil Moshe Be'er is a Torah Azoy, so it's like a Be'er, right? There are different levels. There's a bar, which is a pit in the ground that you make, and you pour your own water in there. And a Be'er is something that water, pours out from by itself. So that's the Pshat and Rebbe, that he's overflowing with Torah, Avos HaTorah, and Yerushalayim, to be able to be mashpia onto Talmidim. Now, I don't know exactly the Pshat in this. I was thinking about it, and it definitely has some shaykhs. But we know that when David HaMelech started digging to build the Beis HaMikdash, so he went to the Tehom, he went a little too far down, further than he should have. It's a Gemara Sukkah, it's a Gemara Makis. So he writes on a piece of cheres, Hashem of Hashem, he throws it in, and the water goes down. The water went too far down. It went past the gvul where it was supposed to go. So he said, Tez Vav Shir Hamalois, and he raised the water up. Right? It's probably not a coincidence that the Tez Vav Shir Hamalois Hatash Haiches to the number of Tez Vav, which is Tu B'Shvat, which is what we're talking about today. That's vart number one. Point number two, it's a very quick vart. We mentioned, the Mishnah says in Rosh Hashanah that it's Rosh Hashanah Le'ilan. In the Welt we say there's Rosh Hashanah Le'ilanis. Right? It doesn't say that, right? There's a concept from a Gemara that an Ilan there's something echad about an Ilan. There's a certain oneness, there's a certain achdus that a tree has in and of itself. It's Gemara Chulin. Gemara Chulin says on Daf Tzadi Beis, Amr Shimon ben Lakish, Umazuka Gefen Nimshala. It's referring to a geffen, but all trees are just as true, right? And this Nakuda. The branches are the balabatim. Rashi explains the mahaz moira hazum meitir lulavim va'olim upri. Just like this branch has lulavim, thinner branches, and leaves and fruits. V'hu ikar hagefen, and that's the main part of the vine. Kach balabatim geim lechesed. So too the balabatim are geim lechesed machzikim idei aniyim. They support aniyim, and they do the shtadlonos, they do the hishtadlos, and the askonim go talk to the government people, and these people have a kiyum because of those that are going to the government to help them. Right? Eshkel from the Gemara Sota means Isha HaKol Boy is Alamailas. Right? Olin Shaba Elu Amei Ha'aretz. The leaves are the Amei Ha'aretz. Koneknei Shaba. Koneknei are like, I think, some fluffy parts of the leaves. Elu Rekanim Sheb Yisrael. Behind the Shalchu Mitam Liboy Rachmim Eskalaya Alalaya Delmalay Alaya Lemiskaiman Eskalaya. That every part of the tree is necessary for all the other parts. So, as they sent from Eretz Yisrael, that you should daven for the Eshkolos for the Olim. I mean, the Eshkolos are the Talmidei Chachamim, but the Talmidei Chachamim should daven for the Olim, should daven for the leaves, and because if not for the leaves, you wouldn't have a kiyum of the Eshkolos. All right, so everyone serves some sort of tafkid. Everybody serves some sort of. Everyone has his chelik in Avodas Hashem. But more than that, I want to go on to say how everyone has their chelik in Torah, as we say all the time from the Ramami Panu, that the pshat is, we say in davening on Shabbos, the same chelkeinu b'seiresecha. I have a chelik in Torah. What's my chelik in Torah? I don't know. I do Shnai Mikra. I learn some Mishnah. It's like, what's my chelik in Torah? So Chaim Volozhin explains that the pshat is like this. Chiddushei Torah doesn't mean that I came out with a whole new marach in the sugya that no one ever heard before. Chiddushei Torah means that I, on my level, understand this Gemara better than I did before, and to me it's new. And that's Chiddushei Torah, right? And that is using this delete to schlep out these gewaltige Chidushim. And that's a pshat that the Avnei Nezer said that already was this time of year. He was being Dailo Mashka in the new Torahs from that year, because today is a special day of Siyata D'Shmai with the Paris Ilan, and we should be Zoicha to have Erliche Paris, and we should have Paris Beruchnias, and we should have Paris, and we should be Masliach with Paris and Ruchnias. We should be Masliach with the Paris and Gashmias. Paris and Ruchnias, as explained many times, is Chidushei Torah, because a person can, there's the same way there's a mitzvah of Pir V'Rivya B'Min HaGashmi to have children, Right? It says Ben Azai says Nafshi Choshka B'Torah. He didn't want to get married because Nafshi Choshka B'Torah. What kind of heter is it to get out of a mitzvah? But the pshat is because he was creating Paris by being Isaac B'Torah. Every chiddush in Torah that a person creates, he's creating Noch HaPri. And we always have to have that in mind whenever we're learning that we're constantly creating new Paris. Just to end off with a quick vart from the Ben Yehoyada, says in Psachim that there was a story, there were two Talmidim, there was a whole shaila in the nusach of how they should talk and how the specific words they should use. So the Gemara says that the Rebbe said about him that he's going to be a Meirah Hira Yisrael. So the question is, what do you mean he's going to be a Meirah Hira for Goyim? What else is he going to be? It's obviously he's going to be a Meirah Hira for Yisrael, right? So the Ben Yehoyada says that some people are zeicha that the Torah is well known throughout the world to everybody. Everyone knows Reb Shlomo Zalman held kach kach. I tell you about some Rav you never even heard of, who's that? What is that? It doesn't mean anything to you, right? But certain people have a special brach, have a special siyata d'shmaya that the Torah becomes nafutz throughout the Klal Yisrael, and that was a bracha that Rabbi Yochanan was giving this Talmud, that he should become a Meirah Rabbi Yisrael. Different people's Torahs have different siyata d'shmayas. These are vart. Maybe it's from Rabbi Gedal Yeshua. I don't remember exactly who said it, but he was talking about the Churban in Europe, and he said, "Kishem that there was a gzeira of a Churban on the Talmidei Chachamim and on the Klal Yisrael in Europe. There's also a gzeira on the Chedushay Torah that would get lost." Rabbi Menachem Zemba had, I think it was 10 volumes, 10 krachim of handwritten notes on Bavli and 10 krachim of handwritten notes on Yerushalmi. And today we have Taitus Chaim that he wrote, and we have a couple of others from that he wrote. But there's so much Torah, there's so many Talmidei Chachamim that got lost that we don't even know who they are. We don't even know who they were. There's absolutely no zeicher of them whatsoever. So we have to ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu, especially on a day like today and on the matzav that we're in now, that our Torah should be remembered, and we should be, our Torah should bring an achas ruach to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we should be, the Perisecha should be Mesukim and the Tzil Chanoah, and Freilich and Tu B'Shvat and Zay Gesund.